to a better world. This is your host, Mitchell J. Rabin, and I'm very glad you're joining us again today. Today, we're going to have another very interesting show. We have invited two top people in the world of nutrition. And as you know, we love covering health, wellness, nutrition, optimal health, optimal human potential. And today, we're blessed to have two leaders in the field. That's Stephen Cherniske and his wife, Dr. Natalie Kather. A little bit about both of them. Stephen has taught clinical nutrition for the UCLA Department of Continuing Education and Health Science. He served on the faculty of the American College of Sports Medicine and directed the nation's first FDA licensed clinical lab specializing in nutrition and immunology. He is a patent holder in biotechnology and also a best-selling author. One of their books, we'll be speaking about today, The Metabolic Factor. And he's got over 1 million copies in print, so there's been some good digestion around his work. Natalie Kather is a double board certified family medical physician who has served as a principal investigator for clinical trials in both the pharmaceutical and natural products area. They've come together and they are just a delightful couple doing wonderful work and helping to both educate and through their product line heal a lot of people. So it's really with great pleasure that I introduce them to all of you today, and we'll be going into, well, the guts, if you will, of their work. So we can all benefit from it. So Stephen and Natalie, thanks so much for being on A Better World today.
We're so honored to be here. Thank you for having us.
Absolutely, absolutely. So this book, The Metabolic Makeover, I said factor, is just awesome. I get asked to read so many books, as I told you, and this is one that I read from cover to cover, and I wasn't going to call to do this interview until I actually finished it because I was having such a good time and learning so much. You've got a playful, educational style. It really engages the reader on subjects that are a little difficult. There's a lot of controversy in the area of nutrition. And I feel that you sort through it really very elegantly and lead us down the path. So would you lead us down that path right now? And I'd just like to open it up to you right now and ask you, what do you feel are the most salient factors to, let's say, a newbie, someone who's just starting to look into nutrition? What should they know first?
Well, the foundation for the metabolic model of aging is the relationship to damage and repair. And so when we're talking to groups, whether it's a lay public or whether it's a group of health professionals, we always start with the seesaw of damage and repair. We've been using this little model here for 20 years. And we use it even when we're talking to doctors, because doctors generally missed the metabolic model. Doctors were taught drugs for bugs. I mean, essentially, the patient comes in, you review their symptoms, you take a few tests, and then you recommend, one or more drugs. And the whole concept that the human body is in constant repair mode, and that repair capacity declines with advancing age, they miss that. So we always start with the seesaw of damage and repair. Natalie's job when she sees a client, right, is to help them understand this, because they're the ones that's going to initiate and carry out the ability to improve repair and to reduce damage. The aspect of this in terms of aging is comes as a shock to most people, because what we then say is that when you were young, your seesaw looked like this. repair capacity was spectacular, right? I mean, we have grandchildren. We play with them. We see them fall down. We see them on trampolines and flying off and landing on the ground and getting bruised, but they recover so fast, right? If I was to do the same thing now at 75, I wouldn't recover very fast. Why? Because my seesaw kind of looks like this, right? Unless I do something. And it's doing something which makes all the difference in terms of your quality of life. So we now have the ability to push down on damage and to push up on repair. Now, I want Natalie to talk about the damaging forces and how she, as a physician, addresses those damaging forces.
So when we think about damage, we think about inflammation, oxidation, infection, stress, toxins.
Yeah.
And when we think about repair, we think about energy and building materials and those repair signals that are needed to tell the body what to do with those wonderful building blocks by using that energy. And at age 30, most people, their damage is equal to their repair.
And that's shocking for most people. Age 30 is where your seesaw is about equal. About
equal.
Equal.
It feels evil, but it's equal. Yes.
So go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt.
Oh, no, that's fine. So one of the main repair signals that we like to educate people about is DHEA, dehydroepiandrosterone, which has at least 150 known repair functions in the human body. And a lot of people haven't even heard of this. Even talking to my medical colleagues, they're like, wait, are you talking about fish oil, DHA? And I'm like, no, no, no. This is a hormone, DHEA, dehydroepiandrosterone. And we
Well,
have
it's hard to pronounce, so maybe that's why.
maybe.
The acronym.
Right.
Stephen, would you like to do it in your British accent?
The issue then is if DHEA is the most comprehensive repair signal in human physiology, and it is, then we need to pay attention to it. So I wrote this book in 1996, The DHEA Breakthrough. Now, that was 1996, right? Over 25 years ago. And it's still the number one reference for this hormone. A book I wrote in 1996 is still the standard reference that people use to find out about DHA. There's something wrong with that, right? In terms of there have been well over 8,000 studies published on DHA since I wrote the book. So the information that's available on DHA in terms of its ability to protect and restore and repair every tissue in the human body and brain, that information is abundant in the medical literature outside of the US.
So when was DHEA first discovered as a hormone?
Oh, I can do this one.
Natalie?
In 1934, a German scientist, Adolf Butenandt, discovered DHEA, isolated it from human urine. And just a decade later, a brilliant man named Russell Marker was able to create DHEA from wild yam. So he took dioxygenin, a plant hormone, and fermented it, and boom, made this wonderful mammalian hormone, DHEA.
Now, think about that. Before Russell Marker, and I don't mean to go off too much because we could spend an hour talking about this one man. Think about this. Before Russell Marker, they were obtaining DHEA in minute amounts from pigs' pancreas and adrenals, and so they were slaughtering pigs by the carload to get a few hundred grams of DHEA, because not only DHEA, but obviously cortisone and other steroid hormones. So these were such powerful molecules. And Russell Marker said, wait a minute, there's not enough pigs on the planet to supply what is needed for one hospital. So he said to his colleagues, there has to be a plant source of this molecule, and he was laughed at. He was derided.
And this man had a brilliant history already. The Rockefeller Institute had supported him in his research with petroleum, and he is the reason why we have octane fuel for our car.
Really?
And yeah, so people knew he was brilliant, but they didn't have the vision of the future like he did.
Anyway, he found the raw material, like Natalie said, in the Mexican yam. Developed an enzyme to cleave two carbon rings off of the molecule, and voila, a biological human hormone called DHEA. That should have set off a revolution in healthcare, but it didn't. The
That's
reason
why I'm
being,
asking, because it's so interesting. It seems that there are some hormones and some medical scientific breakthroughs that see the light of day and are brought forward, and others that are neglected. And you two are
Mitchell, you
one of
can't.
those.
The hormones that have been used are the ones that can be tweaked and patented and
Synthesized.
made into billion-dollar profits.
Sure.
They've tried and tried to tweak DHA, but it never works better than the native molecule. So everyone just goes, "Oh, if I can't make $1 billion, I'm not putting any research
I'm
into
not
this."
interested.
And then there's a more sinister side to the conspiracy, but we won't go there.
I understand. Mexican yams, interesting. Do they not also contain extra levels of progesterone as well?
Well, not the yam itself, but you can derive it using the same Russell marker process. You can derive progesterone
Oh,
from the
all right,
Mexican yam.
all right, all
But
right.
the
So a friend of
process,
mine, for instance, talking about hidden hormones, if you will, or unspoken, unvoiced hormones, really did a lot of work with leptin. And according to her, she says that leptin has been left behind as well.
yeah.
And people don't pay it. There are a lot of studies, but it's all sort of academic. There's nobody actually doing much with it to bring it into life in daily living. But you two have actually made a whole product line, certainly a product, because I know you sent it to me and I've taken it. That and now, I'm really 96, but I look like I'm 32, you know? So I should say thank you. No, kidding aside, you have really taken the bull by the horn, so to speak, and turned it into a very practical means for people to utilize in their daily life. Could you speak to that a bit?
Well, the idea of making products and making those products available in formulations that are unique and affordable.
Yeah.
When I retired from my lab work, and Natalie closed her clinic, we decided, because we wanted to work together. I mean, our lifestyle prior to that was kind of crazy. She would wake up in the morning and go off to her clinic. I would wake up and go off to the lab. I would struggle home through rush hour traffic from Seattle, and we would both be exhausted. We said, "Wait a minute, this isn't the quality of life that we want." So we decided that we would work together. And the thing that we like to do is we like to teach, and we like to provide information. So we started the Heatlhy Skeptics with the idea of helping people to understand, and this was our little trademark, what to explore and what to ignore, because that's where we found most people were having the most struggle, is what do I pay attention to? Because every day when I open my computer and I look at my inbox, and every day when I go on social media, I see this avalanche of information. How do I know what's true and what is nonsense? So what to explore and what to ignore took off. And so we started to have the Heatlhy Skeptics members. So lots of people signed up, and they pay us $99 a year for the information that we provide and for the discounts and the free shipping that we provide for our products. So $99 a year is a bargain, let me tell you. And so most people who use our products are members, and they get a newsletter. They have access to us through the internet and text material that we provide. And so that's the way that we've decided that we're going forward. And it also keeps us at the crest of the wave,
Yeah.
because you cannot kind of sit back and say, oh, now I know as much as I ever need to know, and that's all we need to do. That's not going to happen. With AI technology now, and with all the things that are on the threshold of this spectacular golden age, which could happen if we manage it well, if we understand it well, if we have the ability to integrate the natural side of medicine into this expanding explosion of information that is coming at us like a freight train, then it'll work for everyone. If we don't do that, then it'll work for rich people only, and it will be drugs only, and all the miracles will be available for the wealthy.
Absolutely. No, it's very well put. I'm interested in your overall approach, both of you, of looking at metabolism as sort of the key ingredient. Well, one of the main points you make from the beginning of the book is it's all about energy. And you have a kind of a fun, playful, cartoonish way of expressing that. And yet it's absolutely true. At the end of the day and at the beginning of the day, we want energy, which is the equivalent of vitality, which is our life force. I mean, I come from a background of Chinese medicine and acupuncture, so I think that way. And we're really talking about life force vitality. So your whole approach is about feeding that, but doing so, like as you were saying, Natalie, with the repair and the damage ratio and the way it changes over time. But your approach is helping to fuel, if you will, the maintenance of energy so the repair damage relationship will stay strong on both sides of the seesaw for a lifetime and an extended lifetime at that. Could you speak to that approach of the metabolic makeover that you speak about in your book and why metabolism is something you focus on?
Yeah. So, when someone is feeling fatigued, this is a good example of that. They don't have a caffeine deficiency. We know that, although for some reason that's what a lot of people reach for. It's just a stimulant, which actually causes more stress to the adrenal glands. So if we look at the underlying factors of where does that fatigue come from? So first we start with building blocks, right? We want a person who has a highly varied natural foods diet, who, if they need to supplement their diet with minerals and vitamins, that they can do so, that they're aware of such deficiencies so that they
Mhm.
can give their body what it needs. And then when we think about energy, we think about the systems that run what we end up using as ATP for the energy in the body. So we like that DHEA can help with that process, CoQ10. Stevens' work with the Olympic athletes in 1983 and 84 Olympics, where the track and field team went on to win the most gold medals that year, was because of the bioenergetic he used with them, which was called alpha ketoglutarate. And that's an important part of the citric acid cycle or Krebs cycle, or energy cycle, as some people know it. It's the rate limiting step. If you don't have enough of that, you're just not going to make enough energy. And so we think about those kind of bioenergetics. A lot of people don't know that vitamin D is a bioenergetic and a hormone. And
Yes,
we think
right.
about, yeah, also that DHA and vitamin D and other hormones are bossy repairmen. If you think of the body as a building site for a home,
Mhm.
um, and the building blocks and the materials are there, and you've got an outlet ready to plug in the electrical tools, and then you need the foreman to say what to do with this project and how to make it happen. So we think about repair in that kind of way. But we also think about damaging forces like inflammation, infection, stress, and toxins. And that needs to be addressed. If part of the house is on fire, you can't just keep building on the other side and ignore it. You need to,
You can't fix a house that's on fire.
yeah, you need to dampen that
Unless you
flame.
have a lot of water really fast.
Yes. Yeah.
So we spend a lot of time on inflammation, and I was fortunate
Yes.
to work for a billionaire philanthropist who understood the critical role of inflammation in maintaining wellness, and basically gave me a blank check for research. And when I say a blank check, I'm talking about $5 to $6 million a year just to study inflammation and the ability of plant compounds to reduce inflammation naturally. In fact, in one year, we were in a race with Merck and Pfizer. Merck and Pfizer were developing drugs to basically turn off an enzyme system called COX-2, and the cyclooxygenase pathway, which produces inflammatory proteins. Yeah, we were very aware of that, and we were looking to really reduce COX-2, not to turn the gene off, because you don't want to ever do that, right? When I was teaching this, I would ask my students, does anyone here have a gene that you absolutely don't need? And even my students knew that that's not
Nope,
true.
do
We
it.
need all the genes that we have. So
Yeah.
Merck and Pfizer's strategy, which was to turn off COX-2, we knew that would have adverse side effects. What
Hmm.
we were looking for was a way using plant compounds to balance the COX pathway and to balance another pathway called the LOX, the lipoxygenase pathway. So to have a dual effect, and that dual effect proved to be more effective than Merck and Pfizer's products. The last time we looked at any real statistical analysis, it looks like Vioxx killed well over 30,000 people, and possibly 10 times that amount if you include all the people that died later on from all the cardiotoxic side effects.
Yes.
The point being is that
I'm
we
aware
have
of all of
we
that.
have literally took part in a discovery process that was earth-shaking. The compounds were tightly patented. We use them in our products, not only for humans but for dogs. And those anti-inflammatory compounds, again, proven to be safe and effective in human clinical trials published in the biomedical literature. That breakthrough is something that we are extremely proud of.
Oh, for good reason. And not to mention the pleasure of beating Merck and Pfizer at their own game.
Yeah, yes.
I've got to say that, but that you managed to do this whole enterprise naturally, which of course I would expect from the two of you, and based on plant medicine, I'm sorry, on plants. It is
Yes, yes,
plant medicine in
yes.
the broader sense. Yeah, absolutely. But you bring something else up that I'd like to address, which you talk about in the book, of course, is one of the age-old discussions. I was going to say controversies. I'm going to call it discussions between um, being wholly plant-based and being plant and animal and dairy based. And you make a real point or three about why you believe that having a more, I'm going to call it holistic approach to the diversity of what Mother Nature puts on our table is the healthier way to go. Could you talk about that? Because we don't have to discuss, we know there's a plethora of studies showing the power of a plant-based diet, and they're pretty convincing arguments for sure.
For
So
sure.
I'd love to hear what you have to say about that.
Well, let me start by saying that I was fortunate to follow hunters and gatherers around the jungles of New Guinea,
Uh-huh.
back in 1982.
I hope they didn't spear you.
Well, I was yeah, no, I was there. I was there to catalog their diet, and
Yeah,
what I cataloged and collected samples was they consume 75 species of plants in a day. And that's a lot.
Jesus.
So the average American consumes 11 species of plants in a week, and the most prominent vegetable is potatoes, and the most prominent fruit is bananas. So you can imagine there's a tremendous disparity there between what we're designed for, because we are designed to have a hunting and gathering diet. I mean, the human genome hasn't changed much at all in the last 20,000 years. So we are designed
Look at
for a
the
hunting and
teeth.
gathering diet.
Just look at the
Exactly.
teeth, right?
Yeah, I mean, you look at our dentition, you look at our gastrointestinal tract. We are hunters and gatherers. Now, the thing is, there's never been a tribe of vegans voluntarily. There's never been a tribe of vegans, of people who are vegan voluntarily. There have been large numbers of people who adopted a vegan diet, but wherever you go in anthropology, you're going to find hunting and gathering. Now, the gathering part, as I said, 75 species of plants in one day. There was a wide variety of plants, and we maintain that that is critically important. We ask our Healthy Skeptics members to add a new vegetable to their shopping cart every month. And so we can count on them having 12 new plants in their diet every year, at least, right?
Right,
Because
at least.
variety is the key here. Variety is the key. Now, purity is the key as well. So we support organic farmers, here and everywhere. We want people to understand the importance of organic farming for multiple reasons. But when you actually look at the value of fish, and again, this is fraught with danger from all the accumulation of toxins in the ocean.
Yes.
But there are ways to use molecular distillation, for example, to remove those toxins. We sell a fish oil that has zero PCBs, it has zero mercury and lead. So there are ways to process marine fats to remove those. There's also a way to obtain marine fats from algae. So there are vegan sources of algae. But at the same time, we want people to not feel bad.
Of oil.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If they use other sources of protein.
Sure.
It's all about balance and it's about respecting. We're not advocating that everyone stop eating meat. We are advocating dramatically reducing the intake of red meat because it's just horrible for the planet. I mean, there's no argument there. So if everybody was to reduce their red meat consumption by like 10%, it would make a tremendous difference. So
Whopping
we're
difference.
we're
No
out
pun
there beating the
intended.
drum for a reduction of red meat. And at the same time, we understand that people have to make these changes kind of incrementally.
Which is how we added bugs to our diet.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, well, in insects, I mean, we go to a Korean market and we get silkworm larvae, which is highly nutritious and incredibly sustainable. I mean, there's places right here in Seattle where people are making silkworms, by the metric ton, in a sustainable way. And so again, we're open to exploring those areas and helping people to meet their
Amazing.
protein
Look,
needs.
if you don't eat it, you can make a scarf out of it, right?
Well,
You know,
crickets are done just the right way. They're better than popcorn.
Or
really
potato
love
chips.
Yeah.
this is a lot of fun. And what I'd like to do is invite you back, and we'll pause for a moment and then come right back and pick up where we left off with crickets.
Okay.
Great.
Okay? Okay, good.
Thanks.
This is Mitchell J. Rabin for a Better World. I hope you're enjoying this as much as I am. This is really good information. So come back for part 2, and we'll see you shortly.